Hey everyone, welcome to Fighting Over the Card Catalog, a snarky look back on young adult novels of the 80s and 90s. I'm Jess.
And I'm Steven. I'm here to make my wife happy.
We're taking a journey to find out how many terrible and hopefully some not so terrible books from my youth I can get my husband to read before he reconsiders this whole marriage. Hi.
Hey.
So this week's book was Horseshy by Bonnie Bryant, which is the second book in the Saddle Club series, published in 1988.
Can you love someone too much? The three members of the Saddle Club, Carol, Lisa, and Stevie, are the best of friends, bonded by their special love of horses. Now they're together on the long-awaited mountain trail overnight. Riding through the pine forest, swimming in the mountain ponds, sharing a tent under the stars. They're having such a perfect time that nothing, not even Veronica, the richest and snobbiest girl at the stables, can spoil their fun. But the impossible happens. A tragic accident caused by Veronica's carelessness makes Carol lose the one thing she loves most in the world. Is her grief enough to make her give up riding forever?
Wow, that really gives away a lot.
Yeah. Again, glad I didn't read it before I read the book.
Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Okay, so what do you think about it overall?
That was good. Yeah, this one had several layers, I guess, with dealing with grief of loss and... there were several things I liked about it.
Yeah.
I thought it was one of the better books we've read.
Yeah. It's a very full book. I'll agree. It seemed almost like two books.
Yeah.
Because there's like the happiness and everything and with the mountain trail overnight. And then it's like, hey, let's fuck you up with this grief. So on the scale of 1 being the best book ever to The Dementor's Kiss of 10, sucking your reading love?
3.
3?
Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah.
And I think for both times.
Yeah.
Yeah. It went on my do not read list after my dog died when I was 10, though, because it was just way too upsetting
On
to
your
read
do
this.
not read list.
Yes, I have a couple. There's a Babysitter's Club book that's on it, but we'll get to that. Yeah. I'm a little sensitive about the animals. Did you know?
Yeah, I figured that out over the years.
But I didn't cry this time reading this, but I was pretty sad.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so let's get into it. Let's start with the happy shit. So, the girls of the Saddle Club are out on a trail ride. Even though they're not supposed to be doing that, that's not what they told Max. They're supposed to be checking out the cross-country trail, which I don't really know what the difference is. I mean, I assume it's a designated trail that they have, and this doesn't sound like it. So
Yeah.
yeah. They have a very nice lunch on their outing by a brook. And Lisa takes her very first fall off a horse, and so she swears to never ride again. But the other girls talk her into it and get her back on the horse. Actually, Carol and Pepper, the horse, do an excellent job of guilt tripping her. I like that. He gave her sad puppy dog eyes, it sounds like. On their way back to the stables, they take a way back that involves a lot of gates that they have to open and close. So they are like, hey, let's take a shortcut across this field that we don't know. So, of course, something goes wrong. There's a bull there, and it starts chasing after them. And Carol and Stevie escape just fine, jumping over a fence. But, hey, Lisa's never jumped before because she's only been riding a few weeks at this point. But she copies the other girls and jumps just fine, miraculously.
So a cross-country trail is one that has designated jumps on it. So it's probably a set standard of length and size and number of jumps.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
But then Lisa shouldn't have been out on that. Or maybe she could just go around
Well,
it.
I think they were just going to check it out to make sure it was good for some other upcoming event, is what how she had said it to Max. But it is one that you can ride around the obstacles as well. So,
that makes sense. Okay, so now it's time for the long-awaited and hard-worked-for mountain trail overnight trip. Carol keeps...
MTO?
Carol keeps everything organized as they're getting ready to load up and go, and it seems like she has an awful lot of responsibility here for a 12-year-old.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's 11 people and 11 horses, like, basically dependent on her organizational skills. It doesn't sound like anybody else is in charge, like
Right.
Max or...
Well, I mean, it sounds to me kind of like Max does not have any kids.
No.
And that he is kind of grooming her to maybe one day take this over.
That sounds really gross, though, talking about grooming a young girl.
But I think it may be just him giving her that responsibility. And, who knows if he's checking from a distance to make sure it's getting done as well. But
okay, let's hope so.
Yeah.
We'll headcanon that. They begin this trail ride up to their camping spot. And Lisa thinks about how lucky she is. After only a month of lessons, she's out on this trip. Aren't classes like twice a week? So she's had like 8 actual classes.
Has it really only been a month?
That's what she says. I mean, I get that she's going out riding with Stevie and Carol more, but seriously, 8 lessons?
Yeah.
Damn. But good for her.
Yeah.
She's so talented. Carol takes care of Cobalt, Veronica's horse, during a break because Veronica, of course, cannot be bothered.
Yeah, after this long ride and everybody, just rest their horse for lunch and then...
Get some water.
And hay. And fucking Veronica.
This bitch.
just goes and eats and leaves this really expensive thoroughbred horse to fend for itself.
So when they get to their campsite, they play some horse games. Oh, also, apparently Adam Levine rode at Pine Hollows before he joined Maroon 5 because he's a classmate. Did you catch that?
No, I didn't. I caught the Adam.
It might be Levine, but I read it as Levine. This one game they play called Around the World sounds really fun. They have 2 teams with people numbered 1 through 5, and Max calls out like the number 1s to trot or number 3s to canter, and they can't break the gate going around the circle. And I don't know, I just thought that sounded like a lot of fun. Veronica ends up cheating, of course, but nobody tattles, and Lisa ends up throwing her turn to even it out.
Lisa was on Veronica's team, and instead of tattling on her, she just made it so that it looked like a rookie mistake. Like the people on her team wouldn't know she was really throwing it.
But Stevie knew. Yeah, it was pretty smooth move.
Oh, she was going up against Stevie.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
And she actually beat Stevie on the first round.
Yeah.
And then the second round,
Stevie won. Right?
Stevie won, and then the third round was the one where Stevie noticed that Lisa was beating her. Yeah. But then
she threw it.
Yeah, she threw it.
Because of Veronica. Yeah, it was very smooth by Lisa. Great job. So I normally really like Max, but then it's not his fault. He's a character.
What Max do?
But Carol brings up that her horse Delilah is like been kind of moody lately, and he says women. Doesn't sound to me like there's anything to worry about. It just rubbed me the wrong way.
Well, I mean
we find out why.
In the end, wasn't it a woman problem?
Yeah, I guess. But you don't need to be saying that sort of shit to 12-year-old girls. But yeah. But hey, I bet an 88, no problem. I probably didn't notice it. So another big game they play involves making up stories, trying to guess about Max's grandfather, Max the First. It's the one who founded the stables, so they say. They come up with all sorts of wild, tall tales, like he was a rough rider, and he was in San Francisco during the earthquake and big fire, And Lisa decides that the name means royalty, which makes sense. But she just assumes for some reason Russian. She says Tsar Nicholas II had so many kids that they lost track of how many there were. There were 5. The 4 sisters and Alexei. Like Anastasia's, the famous Anastasia's family. People know exactly how many there were. But anyway, she decides that he became a spy for the revolutionaries, thus escaping the execution and being a traitor. But Lisa comes up with the brilliant idea to go look him up in the library to find out the real story, because she's a straight-A student and nobody else has ever thought about this. The next day, Max has everyone except Lisa practice jumping because he has a rule that you can't start jumping until you've been riding a year, which sounds reasonable to me.
And of course, he has no idea that she jumped over a fence.
Right. They keep that on the down low, and he never finds out. That's great. But Veronica gets in a shitload of trouble she gallops Cobalt downhill to this jump, and she doesn't care. You can just see her bitch face in it.
Yeah,
through
she goes full speed. So apparently with horses, you're supposed to slow them up before a jump. Yeah. Because
especially they're downhill.
If they're going full speed, they have all of that weight going on their front legs, and their front legs are not built to carry all of the weight from the back.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, they aren't built very well. They're fine, but she's bitchy.
So when Max calls her over to tell her, this is how you're supposed to take that jump, and don't do it like that again. Of course, she's just kind of giving the eye rolls.
Yeah.
And not listening at all.
And it's very frustrating. But the next day, our 3 girls have a magical morning watching deer join the horses in their field at dawn, and it sounds dope. And later, the whole group rides to a pond and a waterfall and get to swim. Everyone's just so fucking happy. You have to know that something's going to go wrong soon. Even if the back of the book didn't basically tell us.
Except for Adam Levine. He got a...
Oh, poor Adam Levine. He got a bee
sting, yeah.
Stevie's little brother, when they get back, apparently he's a Boy Scout, and he says how he, thinks camping is for boys, not for girls. Fuck off, Michael. Huh. So back at the stables, Carol gets to exercise Cobalt all week, and she's just in heaven. They have a very good workout together before Carol heads out of town to her aunt's for a few days. Okay, at this point... Okay, in the last book, it said Carol's mom had been dead for 6 months. So it's been 7 months since her mom died. And it's like everybody wants her dad to start dating, right away. It's like, why aren't you dating yet? And that seems awfully soon to me for everyone to assume that he's ready. I mean, he doesn't seem very sad. I'll give him that.
I don't know why I thought it was a couple of years ago.
Yeah, no, I'm pretty sure it says 6 months.
Because a couple of years would be that'd be probably...
That would make sense.
Okay, time to start, to start thinking about it.
I mean, I'm not going to tell anybody when they should or should not, but it just seems really quick for other people to be pushing him into dating. I get the impression that her aunt is her mom's sister.
Yes.
Yeah, because she reminded Carol of her and stuff.
Yeah.
So that's super weird to me, but she's the one pushing him into dating, and anyway, as soon as she gets back, she gets this urgent call from Stevie telling her to get to the stables right away. So Veronica was galloping into a jump just like Max told her not to, and Cobalt landed wrong this time. Veronica ended up flying off him and broke her arm, but Cobalt just shattered his front leg, and so he had to be put down. It's fucking heartbreaking, and I hate it. Huh. He was a very good boy, and I mourn this fictional horse.
Yeah, so when Carol worked with him, apparently it was everything was just very easy. He would learn new tricks just by her putting leg pressure in specific parts. And this is stuff that Veronica could never do because she never had the patience or
Right.
to actually want to learn how to do it. So she thought her horse was dumb, but Carol, being an actual good rider
Yeah.
who wants to learn stuff,
He's
was
a very smart
attached
boy.
to him and knew just how smart he was and how special he was.
Yeah.
So it hit her harder than anybody else.
Yeah, except for me. It hit me really hard. After Stevie and Lisa visit Carol the next day, they give her all the details of the accident. Carol declares that she's giving up riding, that there's only one horse for her, and now he's gone. I'll ignore the fact that she said before that, how she wants to own a stable and all that. And Cobalt wasn't going to live forever. But
Right.
she's 12 and she's grieving.
It's something
so
she had never thought of.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
amount of loss that she would have to deal with
Right.
over the years of owning.
Yeah, she didn't
And
think about that 'cause
You know,
she's
it's
12.
something I think about as a pet owner
Yeah.
myself. It's almost the futility of
It's like,
we
why
all
do it in the
die.
first
Yeah.
Yeah. But here's the real thing with her grieving. Again, it's been 7 months since her mom died. And now her best favorite animal friend, she said it even reminded her of the day her mom died. This will be really fucking devastating.
Yeah.
I mean, that is a lot for anybody to handle.
Yeah.
So I hope she's in therapy and we just don't hear about it because my God.
Yeah, and if she's already started going through puberty,
Oh, even
that would-
worse.
that would be absolutely horrible.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it just multiply it.
Her life is a hellscape right now. And it doesn't come off that way in the book. She just seems sad.
Yeah.
Understandably sad, but God,
Yeah.
it sounds devastating to me. I don't want to give Stevie and Lisa a pass with their reactions due to their ages, though. They decide that the only way to get Carol back to riding, they decide this as soon as they leave the house, is to keep doing it themselves, and they immediately launch into this Max the First research. It's like, I know they're kids, but it comes off a little insensitive. It seemed to me at that point that they didn't seem to care about Cobalt too much, but
Well,
later on, they seem
and
sad
in all
again,
honesty,
so
they don't
it's
have
fine.
the connection to him.
Right.
I mean,
but
I
they're
don't
all
know that
horse
they-
crazy. I would be upset at any horse in the stable,
Yeah.
And I
but-
think they would too.
But wouldn't you be more upset with ones that you were used to,
Oh, well,
to
yeah.
riding itself
yeah.
and having actually, because they never stopped and talked to Cobalt. They never rode Cobalt.
That you know of.
Yeah.
Well, they probably
Well,
didn't ride him.
yeah.
But I'm sure they talked to him.
Whereas, like, if the ones that they were used to riding during class were to have
Right.
that, then that would be
It would hit them harder. But still, they saw a horse shatter his leg
Yeah.
the day before
Right.
that they did know and love, and they're supposed to be horse crazy. But Stevie does get upset later on, and so
Yeah.
I erased what I wrote. So Stevie and Lisa, they get to work at the library, looking through old newspapers for info on Max the First, but don't find anything. And you seem really upset about this, or surprised at how many newspapers there were.
Oh yeah.
library.
Oh yeah. So like the librarian says that they have 5 copies of every newspaper that this newspaper
Yeah.
has put out.
In this little town.
5 physical copies since the early 1900s.
That's
Li-
buck wild.
Libraries don't have that kind of space.
Right?
They're going to put it on microfiche or, whatever the modern day equivalent of microfiche is.
I remember looking through microfiche stuff about this time
And
that I was reading these.
yeah, but
that's how you
instead
did
she's having them
research.
go through physical copies and tell them, well, be careful. They're kind of fragile.
Yeah.
Yeah, so here's a couple 12-year-olds. Just hand it to them.
Hey, Lisa's 13.
But I guess
But
if
yeah.
nobody, she seemed really excited somebody actually wanted to look at them. So
Yeah, that was a thing I wondered. She seemed like super surprised that like anybody was wanting to learn about the history of the town. Like no one had ever asked before. And I think that's weird.
Well, and in that case, wouldn't you just have like a couple of copies at
Yes.
most?
Yes.
One to put away and nobody look at, and
Maybe,
one
yeah.
for to be available.
I would
Anyway,
still think
yeah.
just one. and then on microfiche.
Yeah.
Because that's how it was. But I'm really excited for the librarian. But they don't find anything at this trip. So they decide to hit up Mrs. Reg, Max's mom. But she's not giving anything up either, even though this is her father-in-law they're talking about. But she does, they talk to her about Carol a bit, and she does. She's like, she'll be back. Don't worry about it, because Miss Reg knows what's up.
And she actually helps them hatch a plan to get her back into the stables.
So Mrs. Reg, okay, that's right, because she gets Stevie and Lisa to tell Carol about how, like, there's these stirrup leathers left over from the trip that weren't put away. I don't really know what stirrup leathers are. I mean, are they just things that go between the saddle and the stirrup?
Yeah, that's
Right.
that's what I'm assuming.
That's what I always assume,
And they might
too.
have different like thicknesses or something.
Yeah.
according-
Yeah, and links.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you would think there'd be some kind of buckles or involved at the stirrup end
Yeah.
and the saddle end.
Yeah. I bet if there are any horse people listening to this right now, they're just like yelling at us. It's so frustrating. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, horse people. I respect you. And I'm jealous of you. So anyways, Carol goes back to the stables to sort these out. Because it's just a big old mess.
They guilt trip her by saying that, well, she said she'd get to it when,
Oh, yeah.
when her arthritis gets better.
Yeah, when it gets cooler, even though it's just the beginning of summer now. Yeah, it's pretty good. Mrs. Reg is in there in the tack room with her talking about a lot of different horses she's ridden in her life, but she told her that she never had a favorite. It seems kind of weird to me, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, she obviously had ones that were memorable.
Right.
But she says they all had good and bad.
Yeah. Which,
And-
yeah, but...
I think she was trying to get the point across that there's going to be a lot
so
of
many
horses in your life, especially if you're going to, do this for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
And then, therefore, you're going to have ones that are memorable, but you're also going to have other ones later that are just as memorable.
I still believe she had a favorite, though.
Yeah,
She just
she
wasn't
probably
saying. Carol also meets a new batch of kittens that were born at the stable. But when she leaves, she realizes that this might be forever. Carol and Lisa continue their search for Max the First in the library. But this one day, they spot Veronica in the library, completely engrossed in a book. She's sitting backwards in her chair, using a ruler like a riding crop, and obviously practicing jumping. She practices and practices, and she does it perfect. Stevie says that, like, it's the one good thing to come out of Cobalt dying. But they make sure she doesn't know that they have seen her. So the librarian, who's already been super helpful, suggests that they just, like, tell her what it is that they're researching. I can't believe they haven't done it up to this point. Because, I mean, they've spent a lot of time, apparently, going through newspapers and the town register. I know life was tough before the internet, but librarians, like, were the internet, basically. So anyways, they're telling her what they're doing, and this old man overhears them. And he's like, oh, yeah, I knew old Max. So the girls take him to a coffee shop and buy him an ice cream soda, which apparently is very expensive for Stevie, but is worth it. And he tells them that Max was the most boring man he'd ever met. But they do learn that Max ran things exactly like Max the Third now does. So, like, all these things have been handed down. But they decided not to tell anyone because that's no fun. Just continue to...
So apparently the first Max had tried several different jobs and he wasn't good at any of them.
Yeah.
But then he became a stable hand, and he was good at that. And saved all of the money he made, including the 10-cent raise that he got. And eventually bought the stables to run himself.
Yeah.
So he wasn't even the founder of the stables. It was even older than that.
Carol finds herself going to the stables without really thinking about it one Saturday while her dad's out on a date. BT Tubbs. When she gets there, she goes into Cobalt's stall and she finally cries. Apparently she hadn't cried this whole time. But she finally has a good crying session about losing him. And then she falls asleep in there. When she wakes up, she hears Veronica and her father talking outside. Her dad is trying to talk her into buying another horse.
And it's the one that Carol rides.
Yeah, Carol's been riding. And he's like, and if you don't want that one, we can get like another super expensive one or whatever. But Veronica actually owns up to the accident being completely her fault. And she doesn't want to own another horse until she learns to take care of it properly. And so until then, she's happy to ride stable horses. So,
and I mean, I can understand where Veronica gets it from this one interaction.
Oh yeah, this guy's a douche.
It's like, well, if you don't want that horse, we can buy one, the best one at the auction coming up. We got enough money from insurance.
Yeah, that line bugged the shit out of me.
Yeah.
It's like he doesn't see, he sees it just as property and, like a thing, not an actual living being.
Right.
Dick face.
And then he tells her that she doesn't need to learn how to take care of the horse.
Yeah.
That's why Max has all of these stable hands to take care of him.
Even though, that's one of Max's big things is that, no, everybody does jobs around here, which is great. So Carol she realizes that she still wants to ride. What a shocker. And goes to ask Max for permission to rejoin the class. He tells her yes, but she has to ride a different horse because guess what? All that moodiness with Delilah is because she was pregnant and with Cobalt's foal.
Dun, 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 dun.
Okay. Isn't it like a really big deal to mate horses? Like, even if they're not race horses?
It is.
So it's like, did this just happen?
Especially a papered thoroughbred.
Yeah.
So you have to wonder, was there some kind of agreement beforehand? Mm-hmm. Otherwise,
there had to have been.
It could be illegal.
Yeah.
And it might not be. He might not be able to register the horse as being sired by Cobalt.
Right.
If they did not give a stud fee to Veronica's family.
Yeah.
But I know things happen. You have two horses just running out in the field one day and something happens. But yeah, that's a big deal, especially if you are going to get it papered, then you have to have proof, and the proof comes from the
now,
site.
I don't know exactly how, strict all that sort of stuff is and just like a casual stable like this, without resources.
Well,
and stuff.
Here's the thing. That could happen, and even on the down low that could happen, and have this, half thoroughbred horse now, but they just wouldn't be able to say that this came from Cobalt.
Right, which I don't think Max would care about.
Right.
But yeah, it just seems really buck wild, and I can't remember if we learn more about it in the next book or not.
I'm assuming that Carol is going to get very attached to this horse.
Spoiler alert. But yes. Yeah. But she also gets attached to this little kitten from the ones that were born in the
Snowball.
Snowball. He's like really ornery and contrary is what they say. And so
does everything.
He's this black cat. So she's like, yeah, I'll name him Snowball. And so she gets to get him in a couple weeks when he's weaned. So that's pretty much the book. Did you cry?
I teared up a little.
I love you.
Yeah, it's like I read that scene and then I'm like, oh, you motherfucking Veronica. I wish I could choke kids in books.
Whoa. Dag. But did you come around at the end? Did you forgive her a little?
Yeah, it was I guess it was an empathetic moment for her, a very learning moment for her. That her ignorance and stubbornness killed a horse.
Right. And she realizes it's an actual living being,
and
not
I
as bad as her
bet
father.
Carol's response to it also gave her pause. that she
maybe
destroyed
so.
something that someone else loved so much.
Yeah.
Yeah. So much so that this person who was going to be around horses for the rest of her life all of a sudden says, I can't deal with
Right.
this pain anymore.
She's like,
I
oh,
don't,
shit.
and I'm not riding anymore.
You said the word destroy, and that really bothered me. And I mean, I know that's what they call it, but yeah, like I guess Stevie said it, that Cobalt had to be destroyed. Why does that word have to be used there? Can't we just say put down like with a dog? That's awful.
Well, I mean, I guess you can candy coat anything you want to. You could say murdered. You could say
God.
turned into glue.
Boy, no. Stop it. Stop it. It's a harsh word that is unnecessary.
Made into dog food.
Okay, stop. And bones into gelatin.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't eat Jell-O
Hoofs.
or gummy worms for a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I was upset by that. But I got over it. Jell-O shots, I mean.
You should make a Jell-O company that all the horses died naturally in the fields of peaceful old age.
Mm-hmm.
This
Okay.
is humane gelatin.
Okay, I like it. It'd be really expensive, though.
Mm-hmm.
Here's what I really want to talk about. This week, do you know what this week is?
Hamilton Week.
It's Hamilton Week for us, but it's also National Library Week in the U.S.
Oh,
the 7th
no, I
through
did
the
not know
13th of April. The first time I read it, I vividly pictured Veronica doing her, practicing from the book in the library. Like I could see it clearly.
And did you do it yourself?
No. But I could see it really clearly in my library at that time in East Hampton, Connecticut. Like I could totally see it.
Oh,
So I
gotcha.
could still see that in my mind when I was reading it this time. So yeah, I got online and looked it up and it's completely the same. It
Really?
makes me so happy. Yeah. Apparently it was pretty new when we lived there. It was completed 4 years before we moved there. So it was still new and stuff, but
So is that your favorite library?
one of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it made me start thinking about other ones. And this other one in Connecticut that we went to,
You mean Connecticut?
yes. When I was going to Catholic school, a few towns over in Middletown, Connecticut, there was this library. It took me a little while to find. It's called the Russell Library. It's real near Wesleyan University, where Lin-Manuel Miranda attended. But also close to our church and the Catholic school. So we went there quite a lot, like my friends and I, to research stuff
Uh-huh.
because pre-internet.
Right.
And yeah, the outside is really gorgeous, like I remembered it, but the inside looks more modern. I remembered it with all these it does have iron railings and stuff, but I thought the inside was more gothic looking than it is. But the outside is still pretty. So yeah, so I might post pictures from these libraries.
So my first
This week.
library was in Palestine, Texas, and it was a Carnegie library.
Uh-huh.
And I remember going to story time and stuff when I was really small, and it seemed so big to me. But
Yeah.
the building's still there. It's not a library anymore.
No,
but
because
it
the
is-
library's in a mall now.
It is so small.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the city built a new library, and it was much larger, more modern. But then the roof caved in on it, probably 7 or 8 years ago.
Oh.
And the city went for 3 or 4 years without a library at all.
No, were a lot of books destroyed?
A lot of books were destroyed.
Oh.
Yeah. The mall that was in Palestine, really now it's just, there's a VA hospital there. There's still this Chinese import place that's there. It's called Lams. And I remember getting Chinese stars and nunchucks there.
Like the rowing stars?
Yes, they sold it
just
to
sold-
me as a prepubescent teen.
Like real ones that could really fuck you
yes,
up.
yes, real ones.
Wow.
And I got.
And it's still there? Do they still sell them? Can we go?
I doubt that they sell them. There's probably like a lot of laws about that now.
Okay, but we're going to be down there in a
remember
couple weeks. Let's
what's
go.
the knife where you can like.
Oh, I don't know, but I know what you. Okay, he's making all these wrist movements. You know, you like flip it open.
Butterfly knife.
Okay.
Yeah. I got a butterfly knife there. Yeah. So anyway, yeah, it's still there, but you know, it used to have a Radio Shack and
sure. I mean, there's still a JCPenney there.
JCPenney's is still there.
Yeah.
But most of it has become a big like telemarketing place or an insurance phone call place. Anyway, yeah, big phone call business.
Yeah.
And not open to public anymore.
Right.
But anyway.
The library's there.
Yeah, so they had like a Bell's, and that had closed down. And so the city was like, okay, you know, you've got this big space, we need a big space. So we're going to take part ownership of the mall. And that's where the library is now.
Library is today.
But probably the best one I've been to is the one in San Antonio. It's very large.
Yeah.
You know, and it was like an event place to go to. We would take the kids on the weekend and spend hours just walking around and looking at.
And they probably had
artwork
programs and
books
stuff. Yeah, I felt that way about the Austin Library when we lived outside of Austin, the Central Library downtown. Is you know, stories and stories tall, and it's overwhelming. Yeah. And our little library, Elgin was the town we lived in outside Austin. And at the time, it was like, their library was like, it felt like just in a small house. Like there were a couple rooms of it. But then not too long after we moved, they built a real big one. I like our library now.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
I think I like Plano's better.
Yeah.
They have a lot more ebooks and audiobooks.
Yeah, the one thing about our library now is they don't have a lot of older books. It seems like they go through their collection quite often, which is cool because, you know, like we go like every 2 weeks and there's new books that are free. You can donate, give some money for, but you don't have to. So that's nice. But yeah, I've looked for a couple like classics there or older. It doesn't seem like they have much older than like mid 2000s.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's kind of sucky. But they have a lot of good books and they have a fireplace and I love it so much.
So tell us what your favorite library is.
Tell us about your favorite libraries. Send pictures if you have them because I'm pretty sure I'm going to put up a few of these. Oh, yeah, that's right. I had one more thing about the one in Middletown. So one time, my friend and I were waiting for one of our moms to pick us up. And there was this creepy ass guy who came up and talked to us. And so we're like, okay. And so we went back inside the library. And he was like following us through like the stacks and stuff. And it was like one of the scariest things. I mean, it was fucking scary, but we eventually told a librarian and she was a hero, and I don't remember exactly what happened, but he was gone. Thank you, librarian lady. Because it was really fucking scary because we were like 9 or 10. All right, that's all I got. How about you? Yeah. So hey, super important, everybody. We know you're out there. We know we have subscribers, so I assume you're enjoying what we're putting out. So if you could please rate us on iTunes. It's really going to help the podcast out, and it'll just take a minute. And tell your friends. And subscribe to us on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Play, iHeartRadio, all those places. And find us on Facebook and Instagram at Fighting Over the Card Catalog, at Twitter on Card Catalog Pod. And feel free to email us at fightingoverthecardcatalog@gmail.com. Next week, Are You There, God? Is me, Margaret, by Judy Blume. I'm pretty excited. Sorry. We're rereading the books of your childhood.
so you don't have to.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.